The Sunday Square Off, I'm Brahm Resnik. 6 years late, Arizona schools may finally get paid. Governor Doug Ducey and Republican leaders agreed to a $3.5 billion funding plan that settles a lawsuit filed by education groups. The Supreme Court ruled the legislature illegally underfunded K-12 schools for years. This settlement restores about 3/4 of the money the schools were owed. The deals sped to passage in the legislature and a statewide vote next May. For all the celebrating at the Capitol, there were still questions about where the money's coming from and how long it will last. Joining us to break it all down, Dana Neymark, President and CEO of Children's Action Alliance, Chris Hurstum, 12 News political insider, and Matthew Ladner, Senior Advisor for the Foundation for Excellence in Education. Good to see you all. I want to start by seeing where you all stand. Matt Ladner, is this a good deal for schools, a bad deal, or the only deal?
I think this is an honorable compromise that puts a very contentious issue behind us. I think it's in the best interest of the state to move forward with this.
Good deal, bad deal, only deal?
I think it's the only deal for the plaintiffs. They get 72% of what's coming to them, frankly, and I think they were correct in probably accepting the deal considering the conservative political domination at the state capitol. If I had been a legislator, I would have reluctantly voted yes.
Reluctant yes. Dana, same question.
It is the only deal, and it's a reasonable deal depending on what else happens at the Capitol this session.
At the Capitol in the coming session in
Correct.
January. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Now, we heard a lot of words. The big words this past week were triggers, caps, and corpus. The corpus referring to the Land Trust Fund. Republican Treasurer Jeff DeWitt opposed this deal. Former Republican Treasurer Dean Martin opposed the deal because it would pull money out of the corpus. They said the rate of withdrawal was much too high. Do they have a case?
I don't know about the legal case. They definitely have a financial case because most trusts, endowments, any kind of fund like that, you assume a 4% or 5% withdrawal does not eat into the corpus. Something higher definitely can.
Something interesting Dean Martin also said. He said, you know what this does is shift education funding to the trust fund and free up more money in the general fund for other things like tax cuts. Is that part of the formula here, Chris?
Well, that's the controversial part. It's not the part of the formula per se, but clearly that is probably it's a huge concern for the Democrats and should be a huge concern for all Arizonans, because if the governor and the Republican leadership did not want to go into the general fund just to protect it for further tax cuts, that would be horrendous, because further tax cuts would be a disaster for Arizona. It will harm other state services, and it will cut into the tax base just like the legislature has been doing for the last 24 of the 26 years. That's a prescription for disaster for the state.
And the governor has said he will keep cutting taxes through his 4 years. Matt, what about the caps? The cap on the total percentage of the budget for education and inflation triggers. A lot of concerns about that, about breaking through those caps, about those inflation triggers actually triggering something.
Sure.
Should people be worried?
No, I think these are prudent steps. I mean, if you look back to the Great Recession, the advent of it, the state funds dropped by 18% in 1 year. Okay, the state can't spend money it doesn't have. So to put some safeguards in place is probably a prudent thing to do, given the fact that the history of boom and bust in our economy.
People should be very worried about the 49% cap. So to have in our Constitution a percentage formula saying if education goes above 49% of our budget, then the legislature can cut it and get out of their commitments for inflation funding is extremely dangerous. As a recovering budget analyst, I know there's lots of ways you can artificially get to that 49% or 50%. And the legislature knows there are a lot of ways to do that too.
And that's 10 years away, correct?
It is. But it's in the Constitution, so it's forever after that, unless we have an amendment.
But legislators always ignore the Constitution, don't they? Isn't that how we got into this mess in the first place?
That has been an issue, yes.
How concerned?
Look, Bram, we still elect these people, right? And really what we're doing here is resolving two different conflicting messages we've gotten from the voters. The voters wanted inflation funding increases. The voters have also clearly, over and over again, both explicitly and implicitly embraced sort of a we don't want to pay higher taxes. This is democracy in action. It's a reasonable compromise. And if they do play games and tricks with the budget at some point, as you suggest, the voters can turn them out.
One
right?
prominent Democratic senator said to me yesterday, in the last week, said, this is the best deal we could get for the next 10 years, and by then Arizona will be a purple state because of the demographics, and we won't have to worry about it as much politically.
Oh, we've been hearing that for years too. Haven't we? Still not there. All right, when we come back, the plan supporters